These are the untold journeys of the Ketamine Center. Welcome, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Drake, co-founder of the Drake Center for Transformative Healing. Today, I am so thrilled to welcome Dr. Drake, who is our medical director, but also our amazing ER storytelling expert. And some of you might even recognize him from TLC's hit, the docudrama, Untold Stories of the ER, where he appeared over 3 seasons recounting some of the most unbelievable and often quite bizarre cases that hit the emergency room floor. But today, we're not in the ER, friends. We're exploring the lighter side of a different kind of transformation. In this episode of Healing with Ketamine, we're sharing some of the funniest and most unexpected moments that can happen during a ketamine-assisted healing. It's a perfect blend of curiosity, humor, and real deep healing. And just like those unforgettable moments from Untold Stories of the ER, but this time inside the sanctuary of ketamine therapy. So Dr. Drake, welcome. And I can't wait to dive into this with you together today.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, fun to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, I wanted to share with our audience some of the incredible things that happen, and sometimes often funny things that happen with our audience today. So speaking of that, so what is one of the funniest things? Well, first of all, let me back up a little bit to our audience and explain kind of what ketamine therapy is, first of all. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so, as you know, we provide ketamine-assisted therapy as part of our overall holistic program to support people through the getting ready, getting the treatment, being supported after with integration. And it's an amazing and transformative journey for people that, it's deep and powerful, and sometimes it's funny and joyful, and it's a celebration. And, so it's wonderful work every day.
Yeah, it really is, I have to say. And it's beautiful to see kind of one extreme kind of go to the other, right, with this work. And for also to our viewers, ketamine is a psychedelic medication. And so our patients literally, after they're prepped and ready for it, they actually have a psychedelic journey. And so sometimes in these journeys can be, unpredictable most times.
Predictably unpredictable.
Yeah, I guess that's a really good way to put it. So that being said, I thought we would have a really great conversation today about some of the funnier things. So what would be one of the funny things that have actually happened during a ketamine session that you can remember? And I know we've been at this work now for about 5 years at the Drake Center, and we've seen thousands of patients
5 years
now.
and literally somewhere around 1,300 of these experiences that we've watched, and many of them are very funny. I think the efforts that people make to try to explain what they see, and to try to make sense of it when they're still a little bit altered, and they come out and they're sort of like, wow, do you have words for that? No, I don't really have any words for that. Or they'll have this amazing, wonderful experience, and you'll say, well, how was that for you? And they'll say, good. Like they're afraid to admit they just had fun for a minute. They've been so in the darkness for a while that a little taste of lightness, they're like, I think I had fun. You did have fun. You're like, yeah, you did have fun. That's great. Yeah. And we often find ourselves, reinforcing that idea that, that did feel good, and it's okay, that you had that,
Yeah. That's pretty amazing always when that happens. And that seems to be every first time, or every time someone comes to us for the first time and they have their first treatment. That seems to be the first reaction, I think, most of the time.
Lots of wows.
Lots of wows, yeah. And it's beautiful when that happens. It really is. It's beautiful. But also very interesting for our work, right? So what's one of the most unexpected things that can happen during a session? And I know we're pretty prepared, but some of the unexpected things, I think.
Lots of unexpected things, could come up in these sessions. Everything from, us trying to figure out what's that patient doing right now. Are they dancing? Are they singing? Are they playing an instrument? So we've seen people look like they were conducting an orchestra, playing a piano. Sometimes, like when you'll see a pet's asleep and you kind of see them running in their sleep, people who do things like that. Yeah. And so those are always those are always pretty funny.
It's almost like we're charades. I wonder where they're at right now. But usually when they wake up, it's pretty
those
incredible.
Are always pretty unexpected. And then we had a gentleman once. I remember he had a whole slew of physical issues. Remember the boxer?
Oh yeah.
And he'd had a major medical issue where he had, I believe, a terrible pancreatitis, and had to be in the ICU for weeks and months at a time. And it was still having an impact on him, and he was still sort of constricted, and you could see how his body, and he still had sort of these contractures in his hands, and you could still see he was kind of like that. And then he had his treatment, and I remember, kind of watching him do the treatment. I was like, is he, he kept kind of just like cracking his knuckles, or like you kept hearing like things kind of snap, and he was literally like popping back into place.
Wow.
And then when he stood up, after the session, he was like, this is the straightest my body's been, in months. So he had this huge relief, and his body literally just, cracked back into place. And that was certainly unexpected. Honestly, sometimes when we first started doing this work, it was unexpected how well it worked. And the people having these powerful experiences, and then saying things like, I shot my ex-husband's head into a basketball hoop. Okay, well, how'd you feel about that? And you're like, well, I'm free now, and I let it go, and I put him on the train and I let him go, and so people have that imagery of catharsis and letting things go and relief, sometimes in very humorous ways.
Yeah. I will say, and then I get to help them paint that out. So it's always interesting. Exactly. It's always fun. But yeah, the imagery is always an interesting thing. But trying to figure out maybe what they're doing during the session is always interesting to me as well. Like you said, are they swimming? Are they dancing? I'm not quite sure. But usually when a person wakes up, they have a whole beautiful story, just like you had said, that really makes sense to them, makes sense to their life of what they needed to work through, and really find some peace with it. But it is interesting of what happens sometimes outwardly. It's usually an inward journey for most people. But sometimes we'll get these little more expressive moments, right? But yeah, so that's been amazing to actually watch. So the other thing is, I've been thinking about this when we talk about humor and all of this in this work. A lot of it has to do with surrender too, right? We're surrendering to maybe some fun, even just surrendering to playfulness, even experiencing some of this stuff. And I truly believe that has a lot to do with the healing aspect.
For sure,
being able to be all playful and really, you might see a purple tree on top of a green mountain. You never know, or a dragon, or a polar bear talking to you. It just might happen. But like you had said, it's completely unpredictable in any of this, and we help people make literally sense of it and how it really makes sense in their lives.
I think that question of surrender and playfulness, that's an interesting contradiction, isn't it? This surrender has some of this negative tone, and we talk about surrender a lot, often in this work. Surrender to the process, and we use this as one of our buzzwords, so to speak. But it has a deep meaning, and yet there are times in this process where we find where people literally do have to surrender to happiness. Yeah. So surrender to peace. What are they surrendering? They're surrendering to fight against it.
Yes.
And the belief that they can't have it, or that it'll never show up. And then they have one of these experiences, and then poof, here it is. Right in front of them, and then they face a choice. Okay, is this real? Do I accept this feeling as something real, or do I stick to what I know and stay there? I can surrender my doubts. I can surrender my doubts. I can surrender my mistrust and receive contentment, peace, acceptance, mercy on the other side of that surrender, and that can be a incredibly positive and powerful experience for people. All right, so we talk about that all the time. We talk about surrender all the time, but it's a surrender to light, right?
Yeah.
It's a giving up the fight, and it's a surrender of what you thought was true. I can never have X, Y, Z. To wow, that's really amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
and so we talk about that a lot.
And a lot of times too, I find with the adults that we work with, the idea of the playfulness and the creativity, even with working with them, I find that as adults we become so serious.
Yes.
All the time.
Yeah.
And I think there's got to be a little bit of room for that. And I love to find that in people with this work. I find that inner authentic self, and it's usually that creative little thing. And I haven't done that since I was a kid. Well, maybe we should try it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we should just paint
Well,
out
you
our
just remind
feelings.
me of how
it's fun. It's I love to teach that part of it, because that just reinforces all this other work that they're already working on, and then they have these experiences that might be kind of silly, and they might see polar bears dancing and have a deep conversation with a grizzly bear or something, but for the most part it is so healing for them, and it really makes sense, and there's a lot to that, but it's incredible.
Sure. You just reminded me of an insight for myself about why we do this work. I was an ER doc, and you worked in the ER for a while, and emergency medicine was heavy, overwhelming work. It was important work and
sure.
needed, but it wasn't always that much fun,
Yeah.
and often really quite burdensome. And this work, is we bring our passion to it every day, and I think we enjoy it every day, and it's fun, and we play, and relax in the office. So I think it's the whole vibe of everything we do is more alive, more playful, more honest, more fun. And just the work that we're doing is because we enjoy it, and we're showing up every day in a relaxed and playful way. Things happen, right?
Sure.
Things come up, things
all
happen.
Sorts of things happen.
And we roll with it. And we go, wow, that was glad we're in the room for that one. I'm glad we caught that one. Didn't see that one coming.
And that's the other cool part about this whole work, is that we are right there during every single session. Every integration, every part of our patients' journeys, which I think really helps, really becomes a deeper healing experience. And then, of course, we have our support group now that we've put together, and now our patients are all kind of meeting together, which has been even more incredible, because now they're able to talk about their experiences together as well, which is a whole nother level of this work.
And that's wonderful.
That's been
too.
a beautiful program that we've put together. But it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, we love bringing everyone together to the Kaleidoscope Club and have everyone connect and have some fun and play around with this stuff that we talk about in a relaxed environment.
Well, I always think too is that, especially working where we've worked. I've worked in cancer centers, crisis centers, obviously big hospitals, and healing doesn't have to hurt.
No.
And I think that if there's a message of our practice, is that most of the people that come to us, they've tried everything. They have tried numerous SSRIs. They've tried every sort of tapping, or you name it. You name it, they are pounding on their body to try to get whatever out, including taking different kind of things. And so in those cases, this is, to me, this is just the deep healing. It really is. And, it doesn't have to, you don't have to convulse and purge and do all of these things to really get what you're looking for. No. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful the way we've set this program up, and really helping a lot of people. But there is a lot of amounts of play to it as well. Yeah. But back to that, though, as someone who's actually worked both in the ER and in psychedelic medications now, how would you compare the unpredictable nature of these two worlds?
Well, the ER is certainly unpredictable, and you just have to be ready to handle whatever is going to come up. And so, how do you do that? Well, you've prepared, you've trained, you've said this could happen or that could happen, and you're ready to catch whatever flies out. Then we bring that same, sort of awareness to the ketamine experiences where, we're the net. And the patient's going to have this experience, and we're ready to catch whatever comes out, whatever it may be. And sometimes it's funny, and sometimes it's heavy, but we're there to catch it. And so, whether it's a physical issue that needs attention, whether it's a funny insight that has an interesting meaning, or just holding their hand through a heavy part of the session, we're there to catch whatever comes up and out, and to support the patient in however they need to be supported.
Oh, yeah. And I love that. I love that we're right there with them. I do hold a lot of hands, as you know. And that's actually my favorite part of my job, I must tell you.
For sure.
It's really interesting and quite beautiful to be able to guide somebody through that, whatever they're walking through at that moment. And sometimes they don't remember I'm even there, but it's okay. I'm still there. I know I'm there. I guess that matters. But yeah, so before we wrap up today, just wanted to ask one more question for you. What is your favorite part of all this? What is your favorite part of
my favorite
of
part of this whole thing is being able to leave at the end of the day feeling like we really made a difference in this person's life. Okay, and I guess my favorite thing that comes from this work is the sincere gratitude of our patients. 20 years in the ER. Saved a lot of lives, hundreds of lives, maybe even thousands of lives that were saved as a result of the things that I did. And no one ever said thank you the way they say thank you now. Okay, no one sent us gifts, and now we get on a regular basis, the patients bring us gifts, so we get these heartfelt thank yous. We get letters from patients saying thank you for saving my life. Yeah. And I never got that in the ER for saving someone's life. and so, which is ironic. And so, it reinforces our belief that this is the real healing. This is healing at depth. This changes people in a way that supports them in their whole lives and elevating their whole lives and their family and their community and their work. And it has ripples that spill out into the community. So that's what gives me satisfaction, in this work, is the belief that we really are making a difference.
Yeah, I love that. And they do bring us many little gifts of thank you. And they bring Storm a lot of gifts too, which is our therapy dog. So she is always with us as well. And she's a very sweet girl, but they do bring her a lot more treats. I want to take a moment to thank a few people who've helped make this episode so meaningful. First, a big thank you to TLC's Untold Stories of the ER for giving Dr. Drake the opportunity to share his medical journey many years ago on national television, and to show the heart and humor and humanity that he brings to every patient, whether in the ER or here at the Drake Center. But most importantly, we want to thank Bloomfield Community Television for giving us this platform to shine a light on mental health, to share real stories of healing, and to let our community know there is hope, friends. There are safe, powerful, and cutting-edge treatments, like ketamine-assisted therapy, that are changing lives every day. Thanks for watching and believing in a future where healing is possible for everyone.